But,
You know what I
good
want to
job.
chat about?
Please be.
Do a bit of Game of Thrones discussion.
I'm down.
Oh, God, yes, please.
Dude,
Someone kick it off with their hot takes, and we'll go from there.
Daenerys is a bad guy. Jon Snow will kill her. This is not a spoiler. This is straight out of Woody's ass. They set it up, and they're saying like, "Hey, you gave up your kingdom for the good of your people. Would Dany have done that?" And you, as a viewer, you're like, "No, she wouldn't have. She's all about like thirsting for power herself. We only look at her through this nice lens because she's hot." And Jon Snow is going to come to this realization about her and kill her.
He doesn't need to kill her. He just can marry her, and then he's the king anyway. That's going to be his path to the kingdom. It just makes sense for them to get married and share the kingdom together. Whether that happens or not, I don't think
She's not about sharing power.
With her husband, she would. I feel like, and especially if he explains to her that he's her nephew. Like maybe if he were just a Stark, she'd be like, nah. But if he's like, actually, I'm a Targaryen as well. It's like, really? Well, I
grabbed a hot pot once, and it didn't do nothing to my fingers.
So he's the rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms, right?
It's debatable about who's the
Oh?
I mean, shit. The Targaryens flew in with dragons and just took that shit from some other people, right? Like everybody's just taking it. It's not like God came down. Like, see that this is what the English were. Their whole version of why we have a king and who he is. They're like, the monarchy is divined by God. God picked this king, and his descendants will always be. No, he didn't. No, he fucking didn't. First of all, he doesn't exist. And second of all, no, he didn't. So bullshit. And by the same regards, like no one is the rightful king in Game of Thrones. Like you could look at it from so many different points of view. Like fucking Renly had thought that he was the king, right? And Stannis thought he should be the king, but their dead brother was only the king because he came in and smashed a guy with a big fucking hammer, whose ancestors came in with some dragons and burnt everybody alive. And it just keeps going.
I hear what you're saying,
and his ancestors weren't from here anywhere. So they were from across the narrow sea.
There's a lot of debate that you could make there, and I think what you're saying is valid. But if you were to compare Dany to Jon, if I understand the story right, Jon has a better claim than Dany.
Yes, by Dany's own definition, Jon has a better better claim. And that's what matters, is that she's like, oh well, the Targaryens are the rightful rulers of this land. He's like, well, I am the Targaryen with the best claim to the throne then. So
that's got to piss her off. She's like, son.
Oh yeah. She thinks that now she has no claim other than I'm the one with 8,000 unsullied and some Dothraki screamers and something else probably.
Good pussy. She just needs to marry this guy. He's
dragons.
down. He's been up in the north. He's only been with one woman.
He doesn't want to lead, but he's gonna see. I think Jon Snow wins the Game of Thrones even though he doesn't want to.
Yeah, probably so.
You've got to trust me, I've only been with one woman, but she hadn't just been with me. That explains the bumps. I prefer to think it's ribbed for your pleasure.
I like the episode a lot. Not a lot happened, and I'm sure there are people who would complain about that, but I feel like we were setting the table for dinner. Next episode, some things are just definitely going to happen.
Yeah, I loved this episode. I thought it was exactly that. Like,
you had to establish where the pieces were on the board before you could start moving them around. I felt like, and that was good. I liked seeing how everybody felt about. You basically got an idea for how everyone feels about each other, and now you can kind of go from there. I love the ending where you see Jaime see Bran and be like, "The fuck," and Bran is just dead-eyed, three-eyed raven now. He's just like, "Hello there."
I disagree. I think so. What Kyle said, like, hey, they're setting the table. I actually used that same analogy. They were setting the table. We had to get that shit done. That tells me the episode was too short. All that fucking happened was characters learned things we already knew. I need more. It's not a good show if you spend 50 minutes doing that, then that wasn't a good episode.
At the end of it, I was on the same page you are now, where I was like, that was disappointing. I wanted more, but I don't know. I'm just trying to...
There's only 6 shows!
That's my thing. It's like, we've only got 5 more episodes to wrap this shit up, and so I'm concerned that they're going to be like really crunching some key things, but
There's not much more to
this
happen.
episode did have to be like that.
See, that's the thing. I wish there were 50 more episodes. If I'm being honest, I wish that they were going to wrap up this Night King debacle, and then there'd be a whole new war, and we'd have to worry about what was going on. There are other continents in this like universe, as it were, that we don't even know about.
In Essos, it's Southros.
We
They've
don't-
even gone to Southros.
Yeah, we don't know who made the Salt Throne. Presumably, they're gigantic people because the Salt Throne was made for a man that no one has ever seen before, right? You know, I'd love to just go into that shit with the same group of characters, not a whole new spinoff, which is what they're going to do. But that's not happening. However, I feel like 5 episodes, especially since a couple of them are 80 plus minutes, is fine when you consider that all that has to happen now is we have to win the war. There's a battle coming. The zombies are here. We've waited 7 years for it to happen, but they're here. They've gone through the wall. They're like a day's ride away or something like that, and the war is upon us. So like there's going to be like 2 or 3 big battles. That's 2 or 3 episodes. I feel like they could knock it out in 2 more episodes.
No,
like there's just not a lot more to happen.
Oh, the North fights the dead. The North thinks they have something. The dead went to the South. They fight them. Now there's some leftover dead guys in the South. The North fights the South. Cersei gets the Iron People, whatever the fuck, lend the money. The Iron Bank, and her forces come and do a thing. Maybe the elephants show up. I don't know. There's a lot of turns that can be left with the table that we have set. With 5 episodes, they're missing opportunities.
I don't think they are, because like what was going on forever in the first 1 through 5 and really the 1 through season 6 was they would say, okay, now we're going to go fight these people, but it'll take us the entire year to get there. And right. the deal was there were so many characters, right? Mm-hmm. I saw an infographic the other day, and it wasn't necessarily talking about what we're talking about, but it was showing how many characters we used to have and how many we have now, how many have died. And that's why it used to take so long for anything to happen, is because we had to bounce around to so many different branches of this big fucking tree that is Game of Thrones characters. But now that we've whittled down to essentially, off the top of my head, 6 or 7 main characters, you can almost get them all in one episode. Who was it last episode that didn't get a little airtime? Can you think?
Jamie barely got any airtime.
Yeah,
but he got some.
Got the spooky look at the end for the most part.
Did we see Tyrion?
Yeah, we did see
words.
Tyrion.
Yeah. We saw Tyrion. Was there anybody else? We didn't see the Night King. We didn't see the
That's
army
a pretty
of the dead.
big thing. We didn't see the Night King,
but we did get to see
his dragon.
But we did get to know where they were and what they were up to, because they had killed the Umber Boy. And I got to say, that was the biggest scare in all of Game of Thrones. They've never had, when that little kid screeched, I screeched. like at the same pitch and cadence and everything. He went, and I was sitting there and I went, it scared the fuck out of me. It really did.
I wish it had more of an impact on me. I don't know. I was just like, he stuck to the wall though, right? Yeah.
Oh, God.
I could have killed that kid. And I have no sword training at all.
Well, it wasn't about the fear of the kid coming off the wall and getting you.
Why were you screeching? It was like
that
because there was a dead body that came to life suddenly with blue eyes unexpectedly. And then they set the body on fire, and the arms make the symbol of the first men or whatever, and that spirally thing. And Chiz got in this huge Twitter beef with this crazy bitch who thought that he had stolen her content. First of all,
Chiz had stolen this woman's content?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get there. He thought, or a lot of people thought it was the Targaryen symbol, which is like those dragon heads around in a sort of a spirally thing. And she had thought that initially too. And he basically made a tweet that like, aha, that's the symbol of the first men that we've seen, 4 or 5 times throughout the show displayed and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, and she goes on this rant about how he has stolen her tweet and putting it out to, because he's got more followers than her, and putting it out to his audience or whatever. And her whole thing is Game of Thrones. Like she's a Game of Thrones tweeter. And she's like wanting to come on the show and argue her point and all this nonsense. And it's just like,
I need Chiz to give me her Twitter handle so I can just hard scope her feed during the show and tweet exactly what she says. I've got way more followers than Chiz. That'd be hilarious. And I'll tag her in it.
Oh, that's funny. That would be
No, I won't tag her in it. That'd be fun.
you would really piss her off if you did that, because like she came unglued on Chiz, like she was real mad. But yeah, I liked the episode. I just feel like there's not much more to be done, and I don't like that. I feel like they've rushed the last 2 seasons. I feel they've rushed them along.
Last
and it
season,
could have
undoubtedly.
to me, this could have been a 10-season thing, because last season was terrible in my opinion. It was the worst season out of all of them, because they're like, oh, this slow, methodical, epic tale with shocking twists is now a crowd-pleasing action movie.
Yeah.
And look, I like crowd-pleasing action movies as much as anyone, but that's not what I was looking for with Game of Thrones necessarily. And I hated last season. It was just giving me everything I wanted. Just, oh, you want to see dragons? How about 3? How about an ice fucking dragon? How would you like to see if all your favorite characters teamed up like the goddamned Avengers and went north and fought zombie bears with flaming swords? And I was, oh, yeah, I'd like
that
to see.
That didn't bother me at all. And I didn't mind that they discovered fast travel. That didn't bother. Like, I've seen a lot of people complain about that.
I didn't like the fast travel thing, because like if they had set a precedent from the beginning of the show that they were going to do this fast travel, it wouldn't have been so jarring. But the precedent, like from every season up till then, had been, we need to get to the wall, but we're in King's Landing. All right, better head off on a trek. There's going to be adventures along the way and little ancillary paths that we'll have to get through, and then we'll get there. Whereas in the last season, it was like, oh, we got to get to the wall right now. Oh, we're here.
I did not need to stop and meet Ed Sheeran and have him sing Tales or whatever on the way to the zombies.
Like, think about how long it. So remember, Arya was in King's Landing when her father was killed. Think about how fucking long it took Arya to get back home.
I'll agree they discovered fast travel. I just disagree that it was bad for the show.
It was though. It was though. It was bad for the show.
Where do you come down on that, Boogie? Did that throw you off when they were like, we got to get to the north immediately, and they just showed up same episode?
It made the show feel super rushed, right? And like that's super frustrating, because I want there to be so much more of it. Like, I'm excited because they said a lot of the episodes this season are going to be longer than an hour. Some could be 2 or 3 hours long, and that's great. That's because there's a lot I feel like they're leaving out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It started off feeling more like Dungeons and Dragons, where hey, we need to go visit the other half of this continent. Now let's go have a million side adventures on the way.
Yeah,
and now it is very much, they've leveled up enough to where they have teleport basically.
Yeah, all the characters that have gone on any of these journeys, let's call them, like when Jon Snow was north of the wall and they were going to go like investigate a sound they heard. Well, shit, that'd be like a 2-week long quest where like main characters died and they're climbing ice walls and like everything changes. It's not about the trip, it's about the journey, if that makes sense. Like
right.
Going to the place wasn't about getting from A to B. It was about what was in between and how that was going to be crazy and how all kinds of weird little things were going to happen along the way. I think they got plenty of time to wrap this thing up, because in my opinion, it's like 2.5, 3 battles left. We've got the Cersei and the Iron Fleet and the ice zombies as our bad guys, and then we've got the Starks and Targaryens as our good guys, and they're gonna clash, and 1 or 2 will be left standing, and then they might clash again, and then there will be 1 left standing, and that'll be the show. They can do it in 6 or 7 hours.
I linked the episode links. I'm also showing it to the audience. It's a little better than it was in my memory. I'm not sure if this is accurate or if I remember it wrong. Actually, that'd be both. I'm not sure if I remember it wrong or if this is accurate. But yeah, the last 4 episodes are all about 80 minutes, which is a little better. Yeah, the next one's 58. That's also too short. But then it gets good.
Yeah, and if you add up the time, like the combined time, I think that's the important thing. Like, I wonder if you add up like how many minutes of Game of Thrones there are, how that compares to season 2. Let's just throw
poorly. Like the first 2 episodes are both under an hour. The last 4 add an extra 20 minutes, so it's almost like a 7-season episode.
Yeah.
Instead of 6,
that works out.
Well, I don't know. I wish I don't want to do the math during the show, but I feel like season 2 was
incalculable.
Yeah, because it's incalculable.
It's incalculable. So, like what was it? 10 episodes in season 2 at about 45 or 42 minutes each.
Were they that short?
I feel like they've all been.
I feel like they were all around 50 something. Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. But like the point is, like we really don't know how much there is left because that fat fuck hasn't written the goddamn books. He's doing nothing apparently.
Well,
So
they're
we don't know
talking to
how much
him.
content they have.
No,
to
we
push
know,
through.
we know. Like he's a producer on the show. He's a big part of the show. Like I'm sure that he's
they've
told them-
departed from his visions a bit in the past few
Well,
seasons.
right. Like
A bit.
I think they've even said they want the show to end different than the books, so you have a reason to still read the books.
Okay, that makes sense. I hadn't heard that.
I have no
but-
faith
hate
those
that.
books are actually going to come out.
Yeah, he'll die. I if you want to take a bet, if we want to do a long series bet on that, I think that the books don't come out, and I think it's because he dies.
How many
'Cause
books are
I-
left? Two?
Two.
And they're supposed to be like meaty books. Like two, I think the two longest that he.
I don't
He's
think
got
he's
thus
motivated
far.
anymore.
He's got 12, 14 years of writing ahead of him. Does he have 12 or 14 years of life in him?
And will anybody give a fuck 14 years from now? Well, actually, 14 years from now, they'll be rebooting it. So there you
The
go.
spin-offs are coming. I'm excited about the spin-offs. The next big thing, though, of course, is I guess we're still in Game of Thrones talk. Or is there more Game of Thrones talk?
Boogie, did you have any additional thoughts on the episode? Anything that jumped out at you as really good or really shitty?
Nope. Except I really don't. I don't understand the complaints about that episode because the reality to me is that felt more like the original run, where it was a lot of betrayal and people discovering things and people talking, and that's what I like about the show. I like the action too. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like the action needs to be very sparse
And build up to it.
Right,
Like
and
the
that's-
thing that made the
right.
Battle of the Bastards incredible was how long this was building to a
The
head.
anticipation.
And how much was at stake, right? Like that guy raped his sister a
Yeah.
lot. like there's just so much at stake.
Oh.
Like he's living in his father's house, as far as he knows. He's sleeping in his dad's bed. He's raping his sister in his dad's bed. Like you can't hate this guy more. And then and you know, we got to see Ramsay for like 2 or 3 years be the scariest character in the show
Yeah.
by
Did
far.
great, too.
When he
Total
came,
psychopath.
he was as scary when he came on screen, especially early on after like when we didn't know who he was. When he's asking Theon, he's like, "Do you know where you are? Take a guess." And we're all making guesses. We're like, maybe they're in Essos. I don't know where they are. Who is this guy? They're like 3 miles from his house. You know, they haven't gone far at all.
Yeah.
But he's just like, you know, he's cutting Theon's dick off and peeling the skin
Mhm.
off his hands and stuff. It was just the
And
only
his
thing
little
that is
smile while he's doing it was like, "Where are you?" He's like, "Moat Kalen." He's like, "Oh, cut it off!" As he's cutting his fucking finger skin off.
the only
Oh,
character
that's
who's
so fucking
ever
creepy.
the only character in a show that's ever made me feel the same way, that fear and apprehension when he comes on screen, is Negan. In his the early part of Negan in Walking Dead, after he's bashed like characters' brains in that have been longtime members, and then he's taking Rick off with that hatchet, and it's like what, and he's gonna make Rick cut his son's hand off and all this stuff, and it's like, good God, this is making me sick to my stomach. I'm so afraid for these characters that I love. And that's what Ramsay was doing every time he was on the fucking screen. You never knew who he was going to skin alive, because
Plus,
that's his
Game of
fucking
Thrones
thing.
does that shit. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like prior to Battle of the Bastards, like there wasn't a lot of plot armor in this show. Main people died. You need to watch. I don't know if you've seen Battle of the Bastards recently, but watch it again through the plot armor lens, and it's fucking ridiculous.
Well, I think what you got to keep in mind is Jon Snow's the chosen one. Like he's not going to die.
That's plot armor.
There's a lot of plot armor throughout this show. I think the thing that throws people off is that Robb Stark was set up to be the chosen one, and
So
then
was Ned.
Ned was alive for like 9 episodes, though. You know,
He was the
yeah.
guy. He was the point of Game of Thrones for 9 episodes.
yeah.
And then, like, no one, well, I guess book readers did, but, like, I was very shocked to think that he could actually die. And then I was very Robb Stark was the guy who was going to fix it all. And then he actually died. And a bunch of other characters that seemed too main to die, died. And even things like Jaime's hand getting cut off seemed like the kind of thing that wouldn't happen to such a main character, and
That's
it
fair to
did.
say.
Right.
That's fair to say. Yeah.
And then
that is fair to
Battle
say.
of the Bastards comes along. Please, everyone watch it. Watch it again. And watch the arrows. 100 arrows land everywhere but where he's standing.
I think that's letting you know that this guy's literally been chosen by God to win.
That's
you
what
know,
plot armor is.